A little bit of a different video today, or stream rather. Um, if you were to ask most people what states they know information regarding, it likely would be my state of California, Texas, New York, Illinois, um, Florida, just the usual ones that people call themselves enjoying to visit and travel to. And admittedly, I couldn't tell you much about Iowa beyond its politics, and also in recently learning that it's considered one of the safest states to live in, which is kind of ironic given the stories that I have to share in the next couple of minutes. The first of which has to do with two suspects. I'm going to read this story, and then you're going to understand the title of the stream, and then later on where all of these tales interconnect. A second man wanted in the 2016 killing of a woman in Chicago has been arrested in eastern Iowa, police said. Michael Vincent Whitehead, 18, was arrested Saturday afternoon in Dubuque, for how do you pronounce that city, on a warrant for his arrest related to the February 26, 2016 fatal shooting of a 30-year-old woman on Chicago's South Side. He was not facing charges in Iowa. Another suspect in the homicide, 20-year-old Natrell G. Jackson, was arrested Thursday on suspicion of selling fake Willie Nelson tickets to the Friday concert at the Five Flags Center, authorities said. The men remained Monday afternoon without bond in the Dubuque County Jail. Hello to O'Donohue. At the time, the two teenagers were identified as suspects in the killing of Sherry Graham in the 3800 block of South Princeton Avenue. The gunfire was meant for another vehicle, police told the Chicago Tribune, but struck Graham as she sat in the cab near U.S. Cellar Field, which has since been renamed Guaranteed Rate Field. Graham, a mother of three young children, died at Stroger Hospital after she was shot in the back, Chicago police said. Jackson was arrested after a man reported he bought fraudulent tickets to the concert on Craigslist. The advertisements stated the seller went by the name Mark and had 4 floor seat tickets he was selling for $500, police wrote in a criminal complaint. The person selling the tickets told the man to meet at a KFC restaurant in Dubuque. When he arrived, he was greeted by Jackson, authorities said. After the exchange, the man took a photo of the person that sold him the tickets. When he got home, he called the Civic Center and was told the tickets were fake. Police, posing as concertgoers, then called the suspect at his number listed on the Craigslist post and arranged to buy the tickets. He was arrested when they met in person after attempting to run from police, which caused minor injuries to 2 investigators, according to the complaint. Once arrested, he told the officers his name was John Doe. When police eventually identified him, they realized he had a warrant for his arrest out of Cook County, Illinois, after he failed to appear in court. Jackson was charged with forgery, theft, and interference with official acts causing injury. Dubuque police on Monday announced Whitehead had also been arrested. Okay, so based off of this first story, and you're going to find out as I continue reading the article what the problem with that state is right now. You had 2 people who were charged with this homicide. But I also want you to notice something. They talk about criminals thinking that they're very clever, and a lot of criminals actually are not that smart. Think to yourself this. What was the possibility if he had chosen to just not put this advertisement up and sell these fake tickets of him ever being caught? But again, the criminal behavior translates from major crimes you've committed to other offenses or minor offenses. Obviously, selling something that's fake is not as or awful as killing someone. So that that goes along with that line of thinking. But it also shows you that he just couldn't stop himself from continuing that pattern of behavior. Dubuque police on Monday announced White had also been arrested The two were the third and fourth suspects arrested this month in Iowa who were wanted by authorities in another state for murder. A high-speed chase April 5th in northeastern Iowa led to the arrest of a 21-year-old Miami man wanted for second-degree murder in Dade County, police said. 5 days later, a Kansas man accused of murdering his wife, whose body was found in a dumpster, was arrested in Davenport after a state trooper found the victim's stolen vehicle in a hotel parking lot, authorities said. Now, the other two stories are the reason I'm lumping all of these together. Ask yourself this. If you want to get away with a homicide, why would you drive the vehicle of the person that you killed around and then have it parked right next to where you're staying? Without me reading any of the further details regarding that other story about this man who killed his wife and her body was in the dumpster, you already know that this person was either of low criminal intelligence or just was not thinking out how to go and do this thing. And again, this is the case with all of these stories. And the guy that was over there in that high-speed chase on April 5th, which was not even 2 weeks ago, I guarantee you if he had not been speeding down the street, as if he were the human version of Flash, he likely would have not been caught. And keep in mind, these criminals, and I'll point out that if you go and look up the actual articles, are all African American. Just telling you like it is, are going to a state where their demographic is so small and so itty bitty that they already stick out like a sore thumb. And when they go and commit these egregious acts after, doing something else that was awful or worse to a, some marginal extent, they're further implicating themselves or making it easier for them to be identified and thereafter apprehended. And Saberwolf said, low intelligence with a combination of shock. Yeah, that's pretty much the case here. Also, to give you another example of low intelligence, the story about this man that killed his wife, in the one of the articles, the first one I read, they stated that his name wasn't released, but in that same article they put out his wife's name. So I'm supposed to believe they're going to tell me the deceased wife's name, but not the active potential murderer that they're looking for. And sure enough, if officers really thought it was a good thing not to put this man's name out there, all I had to do was just type in that same news story, and his name showed up everywhere else. So I guess that was if that was an intended attempt by the officers to not to conceal his identity, they failed. They slipped up. CX Saberwolf says, yeah, that's pretty stupid. Think about it. We're not going to tell you the husband's name who murdered her, but we're going to tell you the wife's name who got murdered. And we apparently think we still live in the 1930s where we can just say someone's name and you don't have Google where you can type that person's name and then get all the other articles with their name. So you've now bore witness to a number of stories involving murderers who shared two things in common: their ethnicity, being African American, and also fleeing to Iowa, turning this safe state, this place that, if we could get Chicago to be like Iowa, it would be a miracle for everyone. But if I talk any more about that city, I'll start turning into the biggest basher of Rahm Emanuel known to man. So I'll be quiet. If we could turn that state into, or that city into that state, it would be a complete reverse. But the problem is, you have these criminals who will go into states or areas that are not known for crime, and they'll bring the same bad habits and manners of evil over to those areas. And it's made all the more puzzling when you think to yourself, surely this offender knows that knows that bring attention to himself, which one would do if they're speeding or selling fake tickets or driving around in the car of someone that got sliced to death would bring. But they don't fathom that. It's as if their minds can't comprehend. Once you commit some egregious act, lay low. That's how the Zodiac killer got away. That's how I mean, there's a pantheon of them, but you get the idea. So I feel very bad for the people in that state because who do you blame? Obviously, you blame the offender, but what official relating to law enforcement could have stopped them from crossing boundaries and coming over to other parts of the U.S. to go and wreak havoc? It's one thing if someone says, "Okay, well, I did this horrible thing. Let me lay low." Thanks to this person being able to spill over, or these people being able to spill over into this one state, you had someone that bought fake tickets. Their resources were drained by thinking they were getting something at a cheaper price. You had people who encountered this guy speeding down the street and losing his mind. You had people who were at that hotel having to come to the realization that a murderer was amongst them. All of it is just a very disturbing circumstance, because people will seek out states like Iowa to lower the risk of running into those kinds of people. And me pointing out the fact that they're black and it's sad to me because a number of these perpetrators are my age or younger. 2-3 years removed from high school. But if you actually go and notice the homicide they mentioned back in 2016, the suspect is 18 currently, which means he was only, halfway through high school and he was over there accidentally murdering someone or killing someone. It's problematic that we have a culture in Chicago and other inner cities across the U.S. that indoctrinates young males of really any minority, but especially African Americans, and it's completely suppressed by the media. Local news basically refuses to touch on it, and you have people who are really sitting here and telling us we need to be scared of the executive branch and making no attempt to focus on local law enforcement, on local supposed leaders in the community. And really doing nothing to try and solve this. And, you have these federal officials or these statewide officials, governors, mayors, and people just won't go after them for not trying to compose anything. So you're going to keep seeing patterns like this pop out. And it's a disturbing matter of events, but the dark times continue. So thank you for watching. Stay safe and keep on trucking.